Hi, how are you? It's me, Jean Harville, and I have a couple announcements just to make, just to clarify. I've done some little changing in the titling. So what I did, or what I've done, is I've changed some of the titles of our page and our group, and to reflect a better idea of what we're doing. Okay, so the new page name is Helping Kids with Learning. And our new group's name is Raising Motivated Learners. And this is to reflect the way our kids think and learn, because the way you think and learn affects all areas of your education, even life, right? And so really getting a handle on what is going on in our kids' brain and how they think and how they learn is very important. And of course, as parents, we want to start with ourselves, because how we think and how we learn, whether it's through education and even now, because we're always learning new things, really makes a difference on how we react and what we are putting into our brain and how we are wiring that into our brain. And we parent from the stories that we have told ourselves over and over again, whether they're true thoughts or that turn into beliefs or not. And so it's always a great thing to go back and kind of review our own thinking and our own beliefs, where we make decisions from, because 95% of our decision making comes from our subconscious brain. And if some old stories have kind of created a belief in our subconscious brain that we don't know that it's there. We honestly don't know that it's there. And when we make decisions and choices, we make it from that subconscious brain area. It just pops in, helps out, and there we go. And we wonder, like, how in the world what was I thinking? Have you ever done something you're like, what was I thinking when I made that decision, right? And so that is what I want to talk to you about, is how you can capture those thoughts that you're kind of wondering, like, where did that come from? And you have no idea, because it's in that memory, it's in that wiring of your brain that happened when you were young, even before the age of 7, and then definitely during your school years, your education years. Anything that has happened to you that at the time you just kind of blew it off, it's no big deal, but if it created an emotion within you. And whenever that negative thought would come back, you know how you ruminate on something, an occurrence that happens over and over again, like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, and you're thinking about it and you have a negative thought about it because you're just not feeling good about your decisions that you made. That gets hardwired into your brain. Sometimes it gets hardwired in, well, I didn't do that very well. I don't know how to handle those type of situations. Well, maybe what I said wasn't the right thing to say. Maybe I'm not good enough, or I don't know how to handle social type situations. Whatever belief that you created at that time has now been hardwired into your brain. And when you move forward, things just kind of come up or pop out, and you're like, where did that come from? I don't know where that came from. It came from your subconscious brain. So in order to help our kids to recognize what's going on with our children, we need to first recognize ourselves, right? So last Thursday, I did a live, and I talked a little bit about this. I was kind of telling you a story that, for me, this little things happened along the way. It wasn't a big, major, chaotic situation, but little things that happen, and because of my personality and how I perceive some of those little comments or looks or whatever that happen, how I perceive them as I'm not good enough. And so I would be comparing myself to my classmates, but when I move forward into life, I find myself holding myself back and kind of being very slow and jumping in, because I don't want to be judged, right? I don't know if any of you have that feeling or not, but that comes from that childhood memory and how you perceived it at that time, whether that was really what was going on or not, but it's how you perceive it, and how you hardwire it into your subconscious brain. So what I had you do is to notice, to just take a piece of paper and to notice negative thoughts that hold you back and that you don't want to believe anymore. something like, I want to be on that committee, but no one will listen to me, just kind of write down any negative thoughts that you capture going through your brain. Like where did that thought come from? I don't know. Then underneath that, I want you to, write them on a paper, and it's best to write them. No, don't just think about it, but actually write it, pencil or pen to paper, because that it helps to write it out. You'll end up coming up with more and more and more of the thoughts once you start writing, and get that down, okay? And write them on that paper, make that list, and it could be a long list, and that is totally okay. Nobody looks at it, you look at it yourself, and no one else has to see it. Then the third thing I want you to do with those was to think about each of those negative thoughts that you wrote down. Find evidence in your past that that's not true, that I actually can figure out hard things. If you come up with a thought as, I can't figure out hard things, it's too much, I'm confused, then think back to a situation or a time when you were actually able to solve that problem. I can do hard things, I can figure things out, I am smart. You turn those statements into I am statements, and then just write those down next to each of those negative thoughts. And that's where I had you to stop last Thursday. So today we're going to move a little bit further with that. Okay, so what we're going to do is I want you to remember we talked about a thought and an emotion come together and they create that belief, all right? Like, I'm confused, I'm not as good reader as my friend. I mean, this could be a thought that's going through your child's head. I'm not as good a reader as my buddy next to me. And so that they start feeling down and don't really feel very good about themselves. So they say, well, I'm not going to read out loud because that would be embarrassing in front of my classmates, right? And so they would think that I really can't read after all. So therefore, I'm just not going to. And so when they repeat that over and over to themselves and they put that negative emotion with it of not feeling good enough, and then that's where it gets hardwired into the brain. And it's hard to see that because you don't know where that came from. So like we said, we want to capture our negative thoughts and then write them down, record them, find that evidence that they're not true. Then once you find that evidence and say, you know what, I can figure out hard things. I can figure out, I can ask for help when I get stuck on a math problem or whatever. But whatever that worked for you when you were a child, either in education or even as a young adult, and you came across issues and problems, and you created that negative thought about it, go back and find evidence in your life that you were able to work through something that was difficult. For me, we adopted internationally, and so there was a lot of paperwork, a lot of things and steps you had to go through in order to get that paperwork done. But we knew that end result was what we wanted. We wanted to grow our family. So I did. I figured it out, and I figured it out twice, actually. It was really interesting. And I did it in 2 different states, and I didn't let that stop me because I had that end goal, right? And so my thought is I can figure out hard things, and I can figure it out. I can ask questions. I can just ask questions and find out how to do something, right? You could, now we have our phone, we can Google a lot of information, where is the State Department in this county or whatever. But what I'm saying is that we have lots of tools that we can help ourselves to figure things out. So then my new, like I said, my new I am statement is I can figure out hard things. So that doesn't hold me back anymore. Think about for yourself, what were some of those negative thoughts that you had running through your head that's listed on your paper, and now think back to evidence that that's not true, because what we want to do is tell our brain is not true. Our brain does not judge. Our brain just takes in and wires what we tell it, all right? So we want to show our brain that we can do hard things and that we can, whatever that I am statement that you have created, all right? So next to your negative statements, write the evidence that that's not true. That's not true. And don't just write that's not true, but write exactly specifically an incident that's showing you that that what your new I am statement is going to be, that you can do hard things. I am a hard worker. I am creative. I can sew. I can learn to sew by following directions. I crocheted a hat. I've been wanting to crochet and I didn't know how to do it. So I always had the block that I can't do this. I can't do it as good as the picture or as well as my friend Gladys or whatever, Mabel. And so, you know, you've had those thoughts in your head that you wanted to learn how to crochet, but you didn't know how to. But if you think back to other situations where you wanted to learn something and you figured it out, you can say, wait, I can figure out how to crochet. I can read the directions. I can look it up on YouTube. I can, you know, so you can find other ways and just find that that's not true, that you can't do something that's difficult, that I am a learner. I can utilize the internet, you know, all the different things that you can do. And so once you get those all written down, just write done in the comments below this video. That way I know that you have done that and that we are on target. So go back to what we talked about first, is to, you know, notice those negative thoughts that are going through your head that's kind of keeping you back from making a choice or a decision. It could be a purchasing decision. It could be something about your kids. You know, maybe they bring home an assignment and you really have no idea how to help them with that. You know, it just could be any part of what am I going to fix for dinner, or what's the best thing to you know, to help my my child in being able to do their work. Just whatever negative thought that's going through your head, then write them down, paper, pencil, on paper, right? And then find that evidence that is not true, that you really can do the hard things, and write out specifically. I remember when I was learning to sew, and I used a pattern, and I asked questions about how much fabric I would need. So you figured out something that you didn't know how to do, and you figured out how to do it. So just think back on those incidences that you found something that was hard, but you worked your way through, and you felt really great. It's like, wow, look what I created, you know, because you were able to move past that comment of, I'm not going to be very good at doing this. It's not going to look like the best that it should be, or whatever, right? And so write down those I am statements. I am capable of finding out how to do something that's hard or something that's difficult. Write those statements out and write done down below the video so that I know that you are done with that. If you have any questions, write the questions down there as well, okay? And then Thursday, I'll tell you the next step and how we're going to rewire these negative thoughts that are running through your head. We want to get rid of them, and don't you? And so I'll tell you on Thursday what you're going to do with those I am statements. So no wonder our children are struggling with their confidence and their motivation, you know, with the beliefs like, I can't do this, I'm not enough, why should I even try? And so many of you have come, you know, many parents are wondering, like, how can I motivate my child to learn? How come they want to just go play on the electronics the whole time, right? We'll get to that piece a little bit later. But, you know, if you find those negative thoughts in your own childhood and, you know, and even just in growing up, even if they're the little tiniest little things, somebody looked at you in a different way or laughed at you, giggled at you, that made you not feel very good. Or it could have been a big thing that happened. We moved from one town to the next. I lost all my friends. I didn't have new friends. You know, any of those incidences that hardwired into your brain, you know, that either you're not loved, you don't feel safe, or that you're not good enough. Those are the things that we want to take care of. We want to refute those things, right? So if you found those negative thoughts in your childhood, just think about your own children. And it's not necessarily anything that you have done, but it's their perception, what they're perceiving, and how they are taking those beliefs into their own brains, their thoughts into their own brains, and it's hardwiring into their brains, right? And so you wonder, like, what's holding my child back? Why are they not motivated to read? Like, I love to read, right? Well, there's some stories that's going on that's been hardwired into their brain. And so when we recognize our own stories and we recognize what's going on for us, that's when we can have shift our perspective and just take a look at our own kids and say, oh wait, maybe, and we'll give some questions of how you can talk to your kids and how you can find out some of those stories that may be blocking them or keeping them motivated from moving forward in their reading or their math or anything in school. All right, so just imagine what those thoughts may be running through your child's head. Like, what is running through your child's head? So going through this process yourself will help you to understand what's going on with your kids. All right, so again, down below, once you have written out the negative thoughts, you've refuted them, you've found evidence that they're not true, and you write them into I am statements, then write done in the comments below. And then come join us in the Raising Motivated Learners Facebook group. You can hit the Learn More button up top, or you can just search it on Facebook, Raising Motivated Learners. And watch for our upcoming free 3-part Rethinking Learning series workshop series inside the Raising Motivated Learners Facebook group. So that gives you a more encouragement to join our group so that you can be ready, and that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. I'll be making announcements about it, of our free 3-part Rethink Learning workshop series, and you'll want to be there for that. So I'll see y'all. Bye-bye.